So this is just a little paint with me session. I'm trying out the Kuretake Gansai Tambi paints that my parents sent me as a gift for the first time here. And I thought I would do just sort of like an abstract kind of landscape because these paints really flow beautifully. So all I did was just sort of make a sort of an outline there and fill it in with a water wash. And now I'm adding, I think this is the blue grey deep colour, and look how beautifully it flows. It just spiders out into all these gorgeous shapes. So yeah, I'm just sort of using this, I think this is an overwash 3/4 from Princeton Elite, Aqua Elite. So I'm just sort of putting some more colour there because I kind of want it to creep up to that waterline, and then just dabbing a little bit more in here just to create some texture and some contrast with the flow there to make it a little heavier in places. And you know, going into these paintings, I don't really have an idea of what I'm doing. I'm just kind of thinking sort of landscapey, mountains, sort of maybe even topographical, looking down. It's not supposed to be like a real mountain top that you're looking at or a landscape that you're looking at. It's just sort of influenced by those shapes and textures. Yeah, so I really love this brush. I kind of splurged on it because it just looked so beautiful and I wanted like a big fat brush to do washes with. And it's a really versatile little brush. Like I'm turning it on its side here and making some really straight lines, which is really fun. But also when you have it face the other way, it gives these like little V sort of marks where it comes to a point, which are really interesting as well. But yeah, I just feel like it's a really versatile brush. It holds a ton of water and it's just really nice to work with. It's a nice sort of thick handle on it and it just feels really nice in your hand. It feels like really good quality, which is good, you know, because you pay a little bit more than a normal average brush. So again, I'm kind of just going in and adding some more pigment where I think it will add more texture and interest. And this is actually, I think this is the indigo now. So it's like a little brighter blue than that blue grey deep. And when you pop it on to the paper that's slightly wet, it sort of breaks apart those big areas of the darker blue grey deep and sort of pops in this really fresh bright blue color, which I wasn't actually expecting because I haven't really used these paints at all except for the swatching. So that was a really kind of cool effect. Now I'm going into the maroon color, which is sort of a purpley red, and just adding some color in here to break apart that blue. And again, I just go with my heart. I'm not really trying to paint anything in particular. It's just sort of an abstract expression, and I kind of just put the color where I feel like it needs it and it would be interesting. I'm just spraying a little bit of water there just to diffuse that and make the color sort of spread out a little bit on the page. I'm just adding a little water down the bottom because that paper has already dried. This is just the Canson XL paper. It's 100% wood pulp and it doesn't tend to stay wet for long when I just do a wash with the paintbrush. So sometimes I'll just go in and wet it a little more with the spray bottle there. So this is the grey, and this one's kind of has a lot of white in it. It's a little more opaque, but just adding some more color in here to break up that white. Yeah, I'm really loving how that indigo has dispersed through the other blue-grey deep there. It's left some really sort of cauliflower-ish texture marks there, which I really like. And then I'm just adding some, I think this is black, sort of diluted black, yeah. So just adding some black in there to give it a bit more definition in that corner. and just sort of letting the paint do its thing and go wherever it wants. And then I think this is the one, I think it's off the screen, sorry about that, but I think this is the Indian red. So this is more of a red toned color compared to that maroon, which is a bit more pinky purpley. So I just wanted to add that in, sort of like it's a little bit of an earth tone there, so it just adds some interest there. I think I actually go in and tone down the maroon as well with that. Yeah, actually, so I grabbed some of the maroon here just so it tied in with the color at the top. And just dotting some of the Indian red in here just so it is more cohesive with the bottom of the painting. Okay, so I'm just spraying the top here. I'm going to add in sort of like a grey-blue wash. It's kind of like sky, but you know, I kind of draw the inspiration from sky as though it's sort of a mountainous area with some sky. But again, it doesn't have to be that literal. I'm just kind of drawing from nature as inspiration for these shapes and ideas. You know, some people will look at it and say, oh, that looks like a landscape, and other people will say, oh, that looks, you know, like some weird marks with what looks like maybe sky at the top. You know, my intention is just to create something that, I don't know, that makes me happy looking at it, and I just love how paint reacts to water and you know, other things as well, and I like how, like, I'm lifting it up here to let that drip down into that waterline, so that will dry and it would have a really cool sort of outline effect there. But, you know, mainly I'm just having fun. I'm just playing with the paint. I'm getting to know the paint. You know, this is my first time trying it, so I don't really know what to expect. And, yeah, I mean, it does, for me, act very similarly to, you know, Western watercolors. So, but yeah, just having fun. I'm just going in here and trying to drop a little bit more water in just so we get a nice defined border there. Just adding a little more of that. I think it's the horizon blue, yeah. And I'm just sort of using these fast motions just to drop the colour and water in and trying to not disturb the stuff that's already laid down. So this sort of technique just sort of drops a little bead of water and then it can kind of drip down or spread out any way it wants. But I like doing that technique of just sort of popping more water in there. Now I'm just sort of defining that edge between the two elements there, and I don't think I have any paint on my brush at this point. I'm just using the Gansai paint to its advantage, which is it's really easy to lift. So I'm kind of just picking up color and spreading it around rather than adding any more color to it. Just so that we have a nice sort of separation between those two elements on the page, the sort of pseudo sky and land, as it were. And again, just sort of moving some of that pigment that's already there around, trying to play with how that works. sort of toning down some of the harsh marks that are left after it's sort of dried a bit. I'm just going in and adding some water. It's lifting a little bit, but mostly just sort of adding some water so I can add some more color down here, because I felt like it dried kind of a bit too pink and red. So I think I'm going to add some raw umber in this one, I think, just to add a more earthy tone that pink and red down a little. You can really see here those little V marks that the brush makes when you're just using it flat directly on there. Makes these little triangle arrow shapes. It's dispersing quite fast actually because of the water there, but if it was dry it would just be like this little pointy arrow shape. Yeah, so I'm trying not to cover up all of that reddish pinkish tone just because it's nice sort of peeking through, but I think the depth of adding that raw umber just really helps make it a more cohesive piece with the rest of the sort of darker colors. So I think we're done with the painting now, and I'm going in with my Fude pen. This is the Sailor Fude fountain pen, and this is a really cool pen. It has sort of like a bent nib, so you can get all this line difference. You can go from a really sort of thick line to a very fine line. So I'm just sort of moving the angle of the pen around just to get some variety in this line that's cutting through the bottom of this kind of landscape area. Actually, I did a video on it. I can pop it in the description so you can check it out, my first impressions of this pen, but I've been having a lot of fun, especially using it for urban sketching. It just adds a lot of variety to your lines and a lot of character to your drawings, so super fun. So finally we're going into the metallics. So I decided to use the gold with this landscape. It seemed to sort of go with the rest of the color scheme, and I'm going to sort of put a little bit of gold up here, sort of dispersed in that space, because it just seemed a little too much space up there, too much white space. I mean, there's a little bit of color in there, but it just felt like it needed something. And now I'm going in and I picked up a little bit more of it. I want more of a thick texture here to fill in the between these two lines. And I've done a couple of other different landscapes using some other watercolors similar to this. I really enjoy having the metallic as a feature on the page. It's really hard to create prints from it because it's really hard to sort of photograph metallic paint or to scan it, so it's kind of a bummer when you're trying to make prints from things with metallic paint in it. But the originals just look so pretty. The light bouncing off this vein here really adds a lot to your painting. And I'm kind of just trying to paint in between those two lines, you know, not super accurate, but just to sort of keep it going through kind of like a vein of gold. You can see that texture of the indigo and the blue-grey deep there sort of competing with each other with a cauliflower effect right there. I really love that. I know it's probably a no-no in watercolor. A lot of people don't want cauliflowering, but I really like it. And just thought I would show you a glimpse of my water bucket here with all that beautiful gold pigment swirling around in it. So here I'm just adding some more texture with my Sharpie China marker in black. Yeah, so this pencil is really cool. It's super thick. I think it's also known as a grease pencil, and it has like this waxy core that you can sort of mark on any surface, and it kind of skips because it's sort of sticky and shiny. It doesn't feel like that once you've applied it onto your piece, but as you're doing it, it kind of you have to put a bit of pressure on there to get a nice thick coat of it. And then you sort of just, it's one of those pencils where you peel back the paper and it's just this solid core of color. And I have a white one and a black one of this that I like using just to add texture, because you can kind of get shiny areas, and then if you use it super lightly you can get a very, just like it just picks up the texture of the page. I'm just using the China marker pencil like really lightly on here, just to get just a really light coat over the top of this watercolor paint, just to add some texture. I don't want to lose the colors behind it, but I love how that white just sort of picks up the texture of the watercolor paper and just adds so much more depth to that area. And again, the same thing in here, just sort of adding a little bit of texture. Now I'm going in with my Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2, the water-soluble line. I think this is the Van Dyke Brown. So again, I'm just kind of doing the same thing as I did with the China markers, just picking up that texture from the paper and just adding some color and depth over here. I felt like the gold was just sitting by itself a bit too much and needed some more warmth in there. So I added the Van Dyke Brown, and I think this is the cinnamon, just to warm that area up a little bit. And I won't activate these, I'll just leave them dry. That's what I love about these crayons or pastels. They're just awesome because you can use them dry like this and use it as a textural effect with some color, or you can actually activate them and they'll act like, you know, a watercolor paint. But I just love the texture that they bring to pieces, especially when the paper has a bit of a texture to it. So I'm just removing this washi tape. I really love this washi tape actually. I got it from AliExpress and it came in, I think maybe like a 8 or 10 pack of different widths and patterns. But this, whatever brand this is, it's just so good. It never rips my paper as long as you pull it off like I'm going really slow here. And it's only been on just for a couple of hours just today. So it's actually really easy. The longer you leave tape on, I find that it's way harder to remove because the glue starts to kind of really adhere to the paper. But this stuff is awesome. I love it. The rolls aren't very big, which is unfortunate, but yeah, they're beautiful patterns and they're super easy to get off. And that's it. This is the finished piece with all these different textures, and I really loved using these paints. I love how they flow and react and lift, and yeah, it's really fun. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll leave all of the materials that I used in the description below, and I will see you next time. Bye!